Nautilus is one of the most played supports in the game, and his Q has one of the most BS hitboxes in the entire game. If I had a nickel for every Nautilus Q that hit me, even though there's no way it did, I would have like $1 million. So for the next 10 hours, I'm gonna try to learn Nautilus in 3 steps. First, normal game, second, do some research, and third, play some ranked game. I'm doing this because I'm trying to learn every champion, so one day I can make the greatest Viego video ever. So what runes and builds should you go on Nautilus? Your rune is almost always Aftershock, but if you want to do something a little more unique, Glacial Augment is also very good. For your build, you have 2 main support items. Bloodsong if you want to do more damage and be aggressive, or Celestial Opposition if you need to be a little bit tankier. After that, you build Locket of the Iron Solari, Knight's Vow, and just whatever tank items you really need for the current situation. Anyway, onto some ranked games. And when I say this game was one of the best games I've ever had, that would be an understatement. Landing an incredible hook and using my CC to lock down the enemy, and then accidentally predicting the Misfortune's flash at the end of this fight.
Oh! I didn't even mean to do that!
And can we get a quick replay on that hook, by the way?
Look at that beautiful hook, by the way.
And I'm not saying that I'm the perfect support. I mean, if you look at the health bars, I kind of just let Jinx die at the start of this fight, but my goodness is Nautilus fun. You literally have 4 forms of CC, and as long as you aren't dead, the enemy just can't play the game. We were winning bot so hard, it got to the point where I just didn't care about Misfortune's ult. I literally tanked her entire ult, slowly walked up to her, and only took like 25% of my HP. And I will admit, my plays weren't always the smartest. I mean, here I was literally just walking into the enemy jungle, throwing my Q at whoever shows up on my screen, but this strategy definitely wasn't gonna work forever. I was just really far ahead right now. Eventually, I bit off a little more than I could chew, dying 2v4 in the enemy jungle. But I mean, come on. Look how long I lived here, and Xin Zhao still managed to get a kill.
No!
Needless to say, for my first game, ending 10, 3, and 24, and basically 1v2ing the enemy bot lane at the end of the game, it was a great start to the challenge. But it wasn't gonna be that great for long. You see, my extremely aggressive playstyle definitely got me into trouble sometimes, especially after the first game went so freaking well. And I also learned that just sometimes throwing out random hooks will sometimes get me killed. In my head, I just want to kind of poke the enemy a little bit, but that's not really how Nautilus's Q works.
That's crazy.
Luckily, the rest of my team was pretty far ahead, so my engages worked during the mid and late game, but I definitely have to learn how to play with a more passive AD carry. Because not every AD carry is gonna have the same mindset as me. I mean, I knew how to go in with this champion and fight, but if my AD carry isn't behind me, I don't really have the damage to kill anybody. But in my defense though, my AD carry did less damage than me in a 25-minute game, so maybe I wasn't the problem. It's just so hard not to play aggressive on this champion. Seriously, if the enemy just walks up too far, they die. And when you have a Q that can basically never miss, it's so easy to play aggressive during the laning phase. Just watching these plays back, I get excited. Like, throw the hook, Ecor, throw the hook. Fuck yeah. And I know what you're thinking. Just don't play too aggressive and you won't end up dying like in this clip. But the issue I found is Nautilus falls off really hard late game, so if I don't try to get ahead early, I'll be super weak late game. On the other hand, if I force too many fights and lose them all, I'll be really weak and I will have fed the enemy team a ton of gold. So definitely gotta find a good balance here. I do think a lot of it comes down to knowing Nautilus's limits though. Understanding what fights I can engage and what fights I can't engage takes time. That's why I play normal games first. But then there are fights you engage where you win with a sliver of HP and it feels amazing watching your team just win the fight. Fool! But hey, you can't win them all. After these games I realized Nautilus is naughty. So I did some research on YouTube and here's what I found. 1, your W is an auto attack reset. Because you're support, it's not a lot of extra damage, but especially in the early game, it can really come in handy. 2, your Q hitbox is slightly smaller against walls. Basically, the tip of your anchor that would hit a champion doesn't hit a wall, so you gotta be one step closer for the Q mobility. I know this seems small, but I died at least 3 times because of this, so I just want to let you all know. 3, when aiming your Q, try to hook somebody in a way where if you miss, you still hit the wall. That way you dash to them and you can still use your other forms of CC. 4, you aren't that tanky. Other supports like Leona, Alistar, Rel, and other tank supports are just stronger. Basically, just remember you're not unkillable so you don't die too much. And 5, when you ult the person furthest away because when your ult travels, it also applies CC. If you ult someone super close, you miss out on a lot of damage and stuns. And jumping into my first ranked game, I was definitely feeling pretty confident, even using the auto attack reset tip to get a free kill on the enemy Leona. And maybe I focused too much on ulting the backline, but you can see here how it causes a ton of chaos for the enemy team because I also knocked up Pantheon and force Lucian to dash. Now that I was basically focusing on playing Nautilus and not just throwing hooks out at every enemy that shows on my screen, I was already seeing a lot of improvement. And I mean, sure, just hook every enemy on your screen works like 80% of the time, but that extra 20% is where I was starting to see results. Unfortunately for me, I was still a little bad at Nautilus mechanically. But fortunately for me, the enemy team this game was even worse, and Nautilus doesn't require a ton of mechanics.
I played that so poorly.
Like I said during the normal game portion, a lot of Nautilus is just about understanding your limits and being comfortable with its kit. You gotta be able to see a situation and immediately know if you're going to win the fight or not. If you hesitate, you might miss an opportunity to engage, and if you're wrong, you might end up losing a bad fight. But if you pick a good fight and play with your instincts, the results are amazing.
I mean, I took one, but you know what? I earned it, goddammit.
I will admit though, there was a part of me that thought I was just getting lucky. Like, I was just getting AD carries that were playing aggressive with me, and that's just why I was playing and why I was winning. But I was getting aggressive AD carries every single game. They just always seemed to be ready to fight with me when I went in. I was either the luckiest Nautilus in the world or something else was going on. Which is a perfect segue to probably the most important thing I learned about Nautilus and other engaged supports: using body language and pings to make sure your AD carry is ready for fights. Going back to the first fight here, I pinged my Q cooldown in chat, and you can see I walk in front of my AD carry to give them the confidence to play more up. And again, in my next game, I played in the bush and stood in front of my AD carry, close enough for him to follow up my engage. And yes, I know the bush is warded, but you get the point. And look, I can already see the comments saying, this would never happen in my games, and I will admit it doesn't always work. Like my Jinx in game 2, who did less damage than me in 25 minutes. But in general, if you ping and clearly position yourself to engage a fight, your AD carry and jungler will notice, and either they'll ping danger and you'll back up, or they'll go in with you. Just be sure to fight with your team, because pulling off a 1v1 like this is more of an advanced technique. And if you're the support, your AD carry will love you, because there's nothing worse than an engaged support standing behind their AD carry. Trust me, I played 10 hours of AD carry, and some of my supports were all over the place.
All right, we take those.
Like, these past 5 games were all back-to-back, and I basically used the same strategy every single game. And it's not about forcing your AD carry to play with you, but putting them in a position where they want to play with you. Anyway, enough serious lecturing. Look at this totally earned Yasuo kill from the last game. And getting back to my Nautilus journey, I still had a bad habit of starting bad fights, especially if I had a good early. And like I said earlier, Nautilus falls off super hard in the late games, so a lot of fights that would have worked early games stop working at about 20 minutes. You just aren't as tanky as the other engaged supports, and your damage falls off over time. And even though I was doing well, my weaknesses were definitely starting to show. Starting with my first ranked loss of the whole challenge. I mean, it started with Draven and I destroying the early game.
I might be the best support on the face of the planet with that one.
And I think mechanically I played pretty well, landing every hook, perfect auto attack resets, and playing fights to my near limit. But when the rest of my team fell behind, I felt pressured to make plays and try to save the game, when I should have just focused on keeping my fed AD carry alive. And even though I had a great early game, I could feel Nautilus start to fall off, and instead of adjusting my playstyle, I just kept forcing fights, and sometimes they worked, but these Hail Mary plays were usually just setting my team more behind. I should have waited for the enemy team to mess up, but instead I just kept going in over and over. So I lost my first ranked game. I will say though, the one thing that remained constant was my early game. Out of 11 games so far, I think I only lost lane like once. Early game Nautilus just feels so good, and I learned from last game how important it is to keep my AD carry alive, which was definitely coming in clutch this game. I was just off to another great start, winning lane and winning early fights, even if our jungler missed the smite on the dragon and it was stolen. My Diana even got this sick ult, killing 3 people instantly to get the next dragon about 5 minutes later.
That was disgusting.
But again, things just started to fall apart after about 20 minutes. And even though we were still winning fights, they were less dominant than before, and when I looked at the map, once again we were behind on objectives. And my biggest issue with support was beginning to show up again. My inability to carry a game. No matter how far ahead I get the rest of my team, all I can do is engage and protect and hope my team wins the fight, which just hasn't happened the last couple of games. But that's okay. You can't win every game, and even though support sometimes feels like you have no agency, as long as you keep winning lane and playing well, you'll bounce back eventually. And to be honest, I was pretty nervous about this next game, because if you've watched any of my other support videos, I really struggle with AP bot laners. But to my surprise, this one was actually going really well, which just made me like Nautilus even more, if I'm honest. Even getting 2 kills with my jungler here. And without the pressure of a losing team, I was able to play slower, make smarter plays, and not force fights unless they were clearly winning fights for our team. Sure, we ended 32-8, but I had my first perfect game in a while, and I was proud that I didn't make too many dumb plays that. So yeah, keep playing well, and eventually you'll start winning again. And even though I didn't like playing with Mel last game, I really like playing with Kai'Sa's. Nautilus and Kai'Sa just complement each other so well.
Auto. Cool. Yeah, it's fucking free.
Nautilus's CC stacks Kai'Sa's passive, which gives her a ton of damage early game, and Kai'Sa scales pretty well, which makes up for Nautilus's weak late game. Not to mention, if I have a good engage, Kai'Sa can just fly in and get a huge shield to follow up, even if the fight doesn't quite go as well as I pictured in my head. It just feels so natural to play with the Kai'Sa AD carry. Our laning phase is great, my CC helps her in team fights, and her self-shield makes up for my lack of ability to protect her. All of this means once we get a lead bot lane, we weren't going to let it go. Sure, Nautilus and Draven fall off pretty hard, but this combo is a lot better. Overall, I think I got paired with like 4 Kai'Sas this challenge, and every one I saw, I was just so excited. I'm not sure how many of you duo bot lane with your friends, but I'm telling you, Kai'Sa Nautilus is a disgusting comp. But sadly, after having some of the most fun games of this challenge, I immediately followed up with one of the most frustrating games of the challenge. And again, obviously, I'm not talking about the early game. I don't think I have ever had a champion that feels as good as Nautilus in the early game, so once again, that wasn't a problem. No, my problem was, even though I had been a part of 17 kills and roamed to almost every objective, we were still somehow losing in objectives and losing important fights like this Rift Herald fight. I just felt like I was doing so well, and even though we did have some good fights, we were still falling more and more behind. Like, we killed 3 of them here, but they got Baron and the enemy Wukong was splitting bot lane. And no matter how well I play, I can't stop my AD carry from just walking too far up, getting picked off, and losing us the game out of nowhere. Sadly, in my next game, I had the opposite problem. This game, my AD carry did not walk up at all. He played so far back, he missed XP and was behind a level. And to make matters worse, my mid and jungle started flaming each other. So, I don't know if it was tilt from the last game or just a lot of unlucky things happening at once, but I had my worst game of the entire challenge and knew I needed a little bit of a break. It's fine, we all have bad streaks now and then. Because, again, not every game is winnable, and at the end of the day, I had a 71% win rate with Nautilus, so I was definitely doing something right. From hitting ridiculous hooks early game to just not forcing as many fights in the late game. I was just so much better than I was at the start of the challenge. Sure, I had some good Nautilus games, but I didn't understand why I was doing well. But now I really understood his strengths and weaknesses. Sure, Nautilus isn't as tanky as other supports, he falls off late game and has very little utility after he engages, but every champion has weaknesses, it's not just Nautilus. It's all about playing to your strengths and winning games. It's about playing around Nautilus's strong early game to generate leads for your team. It's about using your incredible CC to lock down enemies and winning skirmishes, or just getting free picks, even if fights are super close sometimes.
Wait, I'm alive.
And it's about making smart plays late game, not letting your early lead get to your head or letting the pressure of falling off cloud your judgment. And I think nothing shows this growth better than my final game, where I had one of my worst laning phases of the entire challenge. We got ganked a bunch, Samira wanted to play super aggressive, and overall, I just didn't play very well. But I remembered everything I had learned. Waiting for my team to arrive, ulting the furthest target for more knockups, and understanding my role of a support better. Because even though I have really enjoyed support recently, it is still my least played roles, and sometimes I forget I'm not the carry. It's just more important for me to protect the carry and engage fights, which is kind of the double-edged sword of support. Yes, it's frustrating when you can't carry a game, but you also don't need to carry a game if you fall behind. You can be useful in other ways. And at the end of the day, Nautilus just fits my playstyle so well. Aggressive early game, tons of CC, and great engages. I just gotta get used to, playing support, and I think Nautilus might be a good main support. So yeah, for my final game of the challenge, I had a bad early game, but I learned a lot and was able to come back and even play better than games where I had a good early game. And luckily, I managed to win my final game. Oh yeah, I stream on Twitch almost every day, so check me out in the description, and don't forget to like and subscribe, it helps me out a lot.